Hello people, welcome to the channel Free Management Education. Today we will discuss about industrial relations, its concepts and approaches, like the difference between IR and HRM and all the approaches there are, like Gandhian Approach, Human Relations Approach, Unitary, Pluralist, Marxist, Psychological, etc. Okay, moving on. Now we will understand about the industrial relationships. What are its meaning and characteristics? So it is relationships among employees, employers and their unions and government. So according to ILO or Industrial Labor Organization, it says that industrial relations deals with either the relationship between the state and employers and workers organization or the relation between the occupational organizations themselves. Here state means the government, okay? The relationship between government and the employers and workers organization or the relationship between occupational organizations themselves. Occupational organizations means the place where you are working, okay? The relationship between employer, employee, like that. Characteristics are important factors are employees and their organizations, employer and their associations, and government. So there are three actors in industrial relationships, that is employees, employer and government. They create rules and regulations to maintain harmonious relationships, that is good relationships with adjustments and cooperation. Obviously, if you have to maintain a good relationship, then you have to adjust, you have to cooperate. Government involves to shape the relations through laws, rules, agreements and awards. Okay. Difference between IR and HRM, that is HRM has two important parties, that is employer and employees. But IR has four important properties, that is employees, employer, trade unions and government. Okay. We will read about trade union in our next video. Implementation of HRM policies results in IR. Okay. The HRM policies, that is how workers should behave and how various other policies, how the recruitment should be done, how much wage, compensation, everything results in industrial relations. Okay. In HRM, individual employee contacts with the immediate supervisor in HRM, okay? And in IR, employees contact even the top management as a group, okay? If there is grievance redressal, or if there is strike among employees, okay? So they as a group contact the top management to resolve their conflicts. In HRM, grievance and disciplinary procedures are resorted to solve the employee-employer conflicts, but in IR, collective bargaining and other forms of industrial conflicts are resorted to. Okay, collective bargaining, adjudication, arbitration, okay, conciliation, different methods we will read about in next videos. Okay, so in HRM, grievance and disciplinary procedures are taken up for resolving conflicts, but in industrial relations, collective bargaining and other forms of industrial conflicts like adjudication, arbitration that I mentioned are resorted to solve the problems. So these are the approaches, like psychological approach. These issues occur due to difference in perception of management. Okay, how I see the matter and how the top management see the matter. So there is difference in perceptions of management, also unions. Okay, these difference arises due to difference in personalities, attitudes, motivations, leadership, group goals versus individual goals. Okay, suppose management promised that after 3 months there will be hike in salary, but hike in salary by 2%. Suppose, but the salary, but afterwards the management mentioned that they will increase it after 6 months. But according to management, the salary will increase, right? But after 6 months. But according to the wages, the management did not keep his word. So there is a difference in approaches. Okay, difference in perceptions. So these differences arise due to difference in personalities, attitudes, motivation, leadership, group goals versus individual goals. Then comes sociological approach. That is, industry is a social word. Organizations are here communities of individuals. Okay, they work as a social groups. Okay, groups with different personalities, education and family backgrounds, sentiments, etc. That is all whole organization. Okay, whole organization, the people are there, is a social place. Okay, social group. Then comes human relations approach, that is relationship between employee and employer as between two human beings. Okay, they are human beings, not an entity. human resources are made up of living human being and not machines. So this is the human relations approach. Next, the Gandhian approach. Okay, it is based on the you already know this. We all have read history. It's based on the principles of truth, non-violence, non-possession, peaceful coexistence of capital and labor. Trusteeship implies that cooperation between capital and labor. These are the different principles that Mahatma Gandhi believed in. So the rules applied that are workers should seek redressal of reasonable demands. Obviously, there should be reasonable demands, okay, through collective action. Okay, workers should avoid strike to the possible extent, okay? And strikes should be resorted to only as a last resort. If there is no other way, then you should strike. But if there is other ways, you should explore that. And trade unions should decide to go on strike, taking ballot authority from all workers, and remain peaceful and use non-violent methods. That is, trade unions should take the opinion of all workers in a ballot paper. That is industrial democracy. All workers' voice matters. Okay. So workers should avoid formation of unions in philanthropic organizations. What are philanthropic organizations? That, like NGOs, they are working for others actually, not for their own benefits. So workers should avoid formation of unions in philanthropic organizations. So workers should take recourse to voluntary arbitration to the possible extent where direct settlement failed. I will read about, make a next video on arbitration, adjudication, conciliation, etc. Okay, so arbitration is where a third party comes in and settles the matter when the direct settlement has already failed. Okay, a third party comes in to settle the matter, and that is binding for both the parties. Okay. So this is the Gandhian approach. Then comes the system approach or Dunlop approach. This is John Dunlop gave the system theory of industrial relations in year 1958. He believed that every human being belongs to a continuous but independent social system. Okay, culture which is responsible for framing his or her actions. The social system in the human belongs. In the social system, the human belongs is the motivating force behind his or her actions. Okay. So the industrial relationship was based on three sets of different variables. Okay. One is actors. Here actors are the individuals or parties involved in the process of developing sound industrial relations. That is, the employees, their relations, okay, government, trade unions, their relations. So they are the actors, denoted by A. Context. The context refers to the setup in which the actors perform the given tasks. Okay, the setup. Okay, that is the industry, markets, technologies, and the power distribution in the organization and labor unions. Okay, so the setup or the function in which the actors perform their tasks. Okay, so this is the context. Industry, market, how do you perform? Okay, you do marketing, you do finance, you do sales, like everything, technology, market, everything. How do you perform the tasks? Okay, given task. Then comes the ideology. So ideology, they are similar ideas, mentality or beliefs shared by the actors helps to blend the system. Okay, the belief system that the actors believe in, the employees believe in, the employer believe in, the trade union believe in, etc. It can be expressed by the initial I. So R, or the systems approach, is a function of actors. Then comes technology, then comes industry, markets, then comes labor unions, then comes ideology. Okay, so this is a function of all of these. Don't be confused by this expression. Okay, anyone having a non-science background will obviously get confused by this. So this is, you do not have to remember this. Okay, you have to remember only this part. Okay, so what are actors, what are contexts, okay, what are ideology. Okay, so this system approach is a function of all of these. If one of them is missing, then this approach would not be defined. So this formula represents the industrial relation systems can be seen as a joint function of all the elements mentioned above. Okay, so this is the system approach or approach. Then comes a unitary approach. So what is it? It is based on the strong arguments that there is only one source of authority. That is why it's unitary. One source of authority. What it is? It is the management. Okay, which owns and controls the dynamics of decision making in issues relating to negotiation and bargaining. Okay, that is the management. Management controls all. Okay, under unitary approach, industrial relations are grounded in mutual cooperation, individual treatment, teamwork, and shared goals. Okay, there will be one goal for all teams, like that. Okay, unitary, mutual cooperation, individual treatment. Okay, workplace conflict is seen as a temporary aberration. It is temporary. Okay, workplace conflict, and it results from poor management. Okay, these are the important characteristics that you have to remember in unitary approach. Okay, poor management, also employees who do not mix well in the organizational culture. Underlying assumption is that everyone benefits when the focus is on common interest and promotion of harmony. When all of the workers work towards a common goal, then everyone benefits. Okay. Also, conflict is in the form of strikes is not only regarded as necessary but destructive. Okay, strikes here are regarded as destructive in nature. Okay, advocates of the unitary approach emphasize on reactive industrial relations strategy. Reactive, that is direct negotiations with employees, participation of government tribunals and unions is not sought or is seen as being necessary for achieving harmonious relationships. Okay, here participation of government tribunals and unions is not sought here. Okay, we do not require it is not required unless it's necessary. Okay, so there is direct negotiations with employees. So this is the unitary approach, that is they work towards a common goal. Workplace conflict is temporary, strikes are destructive, direct negotiations with employees, that is the reactive industrial relations strategy, and participation of government tribunals and union is not sought or seen or is seen as being necessary for achieving harmonious relationships, not required. So now comes the pluralist approach. Here organizations as coalitions. Okay, coalitions meaning jointly of competing interests. That is the market to achieve. Suppose you want to achieve a particular goal, and the marketing department has a different strategy, finance department has a different strategy, etc., etc. Okay, so they have different interests, but for the common goal. Also, there can be different interests in industrial relations, like they want a hike in salary, something by 5%, but the HR department wants more incentives rather than hike in salary, like that. Many other examples you can form on your own. Okay, where the role of the management is to mediate or to interfere amongst the different interest groups. Okay. Here, trade unions as legitimate representatives of employee interests. Okay, here trade unions are legitimate representatives of employee interests. Okay, they represent the employee. Trade unions represent the employee. Here, the conflict between management and workers is understood as inevitable. That is, it is bound to happen. Okay, it will always happen. The conflict will always happen, and in fact, it is viewed as conducive for innovation and growth. Like, it is necessary for innovation and growth. Otherwise, if there is no conflict, the management will never know about the workers' interests, and worker will never know about the management's intentions. Okay, so it is required for innovation and growth. Also, employees join unions to protect their interests and influence decision making by the management. Okay, employees here join unions to protect their interests and influence decision making by the management to increase their power. Obviously, unions thus balance the power between the management and employees. In this approach, a strong union is not only desirable but also necessary. Okay, society's interests are protected by the state intervention through legislation and industrial tribunals. Remember, in unitary approach, the state intervention is not necessary, is not sought, but it is necessary for maintaining relationships. Okay, but here society interests are protected by state intervention through legislation and industrial tribunals. Industrial conflict is inevitable, which I mentioned, and it needs to be contained, or the conflicts should be resolved within the social mechanism of collective bargaining, conciliation, and arbitration. Okay, these are the different methods. I will explain them in the next video. Just remember that arbitration, where a third party comes in, okay, to settle the dispute. Conciliation is In arbitration, it is mandatory for both the parties to listen to the third party to maintain what the third party has told them to do, and in conciliation, it is just interference that is not mandatory for the parties to obey. Okay. Collective bargaining is where the different groups of workers comes before the management to settle an issue. I will explain them all in the next video. The pluralist approach totally departs from the unitary approach and assumes that organization is composed of individuals who form distinct groups with their own set of aims, objectives, leadership style, and value propositions. Obviously, in unitary approach, there is a common goal, that is a shared goal. Okay, but here it is composed of individuals who form distinct groups with their own set of aims, objectives, leadership style, etc. Now comes the Marxist approach, and this is the last approach. This is also known as the radical perspective. It is based on the proposition that the economic activities of production, manufacturing, and distribution are majorly governed by the objective of profit. Okay, so everything that is done, it is because of profit. Marxists, like pluralists, also regard conflict between employers and employees is inevitable also, and it is sees it as a product of the capitalist society. Okay, it focuses on the type of society in which an organization functions. These are easy. Just remember that the production, manufacturing are done for the objective of profit, and also employers and employees conflict is inevitable. Okay, conflict arises not only because of competing interest within the organization, but because of the division within the society. There is class division within the society between those who own or manage the means of production and those who only have their labor to satisfy. Just remember that division within the society is the main reason of conflict in Marxist approach. Okay, it is synonymous with political and social unrest. Obviously, the main political and religious unrest are because of these class divisions, right? The Marxist approach argues that for social change to take place, class conflict is required. Okay, this approach views pluralism as unreal and considers industrial disputes and class conflict as inevitable for the circular functioning of the industry. These are the same lines I have repeated just to make you understand that these lines are important. Okay, trade unions are seen both as labor reaction to exploitation by the capital as well as a weapon to bring about a revolutionary social change. That is, trade unions can also represent employees for the employees' welfare, and also they are as a weapon. Why? Because they can change. If all the trade unions are gathered together, they can literally change the government. Okay, so for the Marxist, all strikes are political. Okay, this is the most important point here, and this is the most important point here. Okay, and also Marxist regards state this is also an important part. It regards state intervention via legislation and creation of industrial tribunals as supporting management's interests rather than ensuring a balance between the competing groups. That is, it says that the state only intervenes, makes rules, makes regulations just to support the management's interest, but not the employees' interest. Okay, it kind of an extremist approach. Okay, this view is in contrast to the belief of pluralists who argue that state intervention is necessary to protect the overall interest of the society. Okay, so this is the Marxist approach. It is a radical perspective. That is why it says the extreme perspective also. So these are our different approaches. I hope you like this video. So this is the end of this video. So thanks for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more updates. Okay, and my email ID is given in the description box. Do comment if you want some specific videos on some specific topics. Okay, thank you. Stay safe. Take care of your family.